The Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 stimulus package has been announced this past week, and joining me online is Mr. Call of Duty himself, Mr. Robert Bowling. Robert, how are you?
I'm great, Larry. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You had a big week, lots of great news. Why don't you go over it pretty quickly, because you also have a new piece of information to share with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big week. I mean, we just announced our first downloadable content for Modern Warfare 2, and I know a lot of our community has been itching to get some new maps to attack each other on and to play on. So, I mean, we announced the stimulus package this week. I mean, it's coming out March 30th, first on Xbox Live, and that's going to be cool. We have 5 maps that it's going to include, totaling up to 1,200 Microsoft Points, which is, I think it equals up to $14.99.
Right.
Yeah, so we have that coming down the pipeline, and a lot of good maps in there that I know our community have been wanting, and then some they're never expecting.
So let's talk about that. So the stimulus package is going to be, as you said, it's going to be coming out on March 30th, exclusive on Xbox Live for first, and then it's going to go to wherever else it's going to go after that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be 1,200 Microsoft Points. There's 5 maps in the stimulus package. Let's go through them. I've got Baleout, Storm, Salvage, Crash, and Overgrown. So why don't you kind of walk us through each one of them, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Baleout's one of my favorites. It takes place in this overrun apartment complex. It has really long sight lines, and it's a wide map, so it has a lot of great flanking routes. And I mean, this apartment complex it's a modern day apartment complex, so it's very familiar to a lot of people. And it's one of those places where when you visit them in real life, it's always one of those feelings like, man, I wonder what it's like to have a firefight here. And now they're going to be able to. I mean, you're cutting through blown-out apartment buildings. You're looking over these parking lots and these courtyards that connect it all. It's just a really cool map with really intense team games. Second, you have Salvage. Salvage is really cool because it's a snowy map, so it's like this old abandoned junkyard, basically. So you have all these piled-up trash vehicles that you can use for cover, some warehouses, a lot of debris, and it's like the snowy terrain. It's really fast-paced action. It's one of the smaller maps in the map pack, so it's really great for free-for-all or smaller team games like that. Storm is one that takes, has some weather effects. It's in the middle of a rainy downpour, an intense thunderstorm that's rolling in. It has all these abandoned warehouses that have been turned into makeshift outposts for these military units. So you're fighting through this area. It's really good for a little bit larger team battles, some objective game types. Maybe you're playing domination on there, hardcore HQ. And then, of course, everybody knows these maps. If you've been playing Modern Warfare 1, these are some of the most popular maps from that game that we're bringing into Modern Warfare 2 and have revamped a little bit. So we have Crash. Everybody loves Crash. I mean, it's my personal all-time favorite map. It has the down helicopter. It's an urban map, so it's smaller. It's super fast-paced, but it's also great for team games. I mean, I think Crash is one of our greatest maps in the franchise, really, because it's one of those maps that just works well with any game type that you're playing on it. And the second is one, that everybody should be familiar with, Overgrown. We had it in the beta for Call of Duty 4. It was one of the most popular Call of Duty 4 maps. It's back. It's wide open if you're not familiar with it. It's great for snipers. Has a lot of, perfect for ghillie suits, which is why it's so good with snipers. But it also has, some great buildings that you can get up in and shoot from and fight through, and especially when you're playing objective game types. It's good. I mean, what I love about bringing these 2 maps back, especially Crash, is I've been waiting over 2 years to play Capture the Flag on Crash, and the first time I got to do it was just awesome.
Yeah, it's so you talked about the 5 different maps. There's some 3 brand new ones, and 2 are kind of do you say reworked from one, or how would you characterize them?
Well, they're slightly reworked, but I mean, we didn't make any major geo changes. I mean, these are maps that we loved, and we didn't want to go messing with that formula. I mean, we brought them back because they're maps we love, so we didn't redo them at all. We just upped the graphics a bit and added in that new stuff, all the new stuff we added to Modern Warfare 2 as a whole.
Yeah. Now, when you're going through, I mean, you and I have talked about this at length because you have the Modern Warfare community is one of the most extraordinary communities. It's one of the weekend since launch. It's been probably the most popular title on Xbox Live. I post the top 10 list every week, and there it is. But what you've got one of the most extraordinary communities. So how do you take the feedback, and where can we see some of the community's feedback in the maps?
Well, I mean, it's all through. I mean, everybody knows how active we are with the community, whether it's on, the forums or Twitter or Facebook, and just listening to everything they have to say. And, I mean, we have a massive community. I mean, this past week I tweeted out that we hit 25 million uniques, and, I mean, that's across all platforms. But the majority of that is from Xbox Live. So we have a lot of vocal people out there giving feedback. And, I mean, you can see it, I mean, especially with maps like Salvage. Salvage is all about, the skill player, the player who wants to run and gun, get out there and fight, not the player who wants to sit in corners and stuff. So we really listen to that feedback of like, too many campers on this map or that, and this is that map for those people, Salvage is. Because you don't have a lot of places to hide. You're in the fight, or you're just about to get into the fight in this map. There's not a lot of room for hiding it out with your heartbeat sensor in this one. So we've really been listening to what people want, and this, with the 5 maps that you have to choose from, we really have a good variety of maps like that for those people, and then also for the guys who like to snipe, bringing back some classic ones like that, and then a nice medium with Baleout, which, it has some really good long sight lines for snipers, but then it also has some, as you're fighting through the apartment complex, the actual buildings instead of the surrounding outside, you have that close quarters combat too. So we've been listening to what everybody said, and there's maps and areas in these maps for every type of player.
Now, with these 5 maps, I mean, clearly you guys have the ones that you've redone a little bit and these brand new ones. Tell me about some of the data that you've collected. I mean, you talked about the community feedback, but you also have access to raw data in terms of where the choke points are on the maps, and you kind of know the kill to deaths and whatnot and kind of what maps work. Tell me about the development process going into some of these maps and how you guys work as a team to really create a really great map experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is the hardest part, and I think that's what our designers here in Infinity Ward do the best, is really, hammering away at these maps constantly. Every day we're doing play tests and changing it up based on all of that data, and both past data and gameplay data when we're playing it here, keeping that data in mind. And that's stuff like, making sure that every map works well for all the kill streaks. I mean, we have 15 kill streaks in Modern Warfare 2. And you want to, we're looking at data, what's used most, and what seems to get the most kills, and what doesn't, and maybe catering certain areas so it can take advantage of the kill streaks in the custom classes that you're using. But then also looking at what perk classes, what loadout classes are people using the most, and making sure that the maps are balanced for all those. You don't want a map. You can't have a map too small, because if somebody's using Marathon, they have unlimited sprint, they're going to get across that map in no time. So it's really, balancing that out and balancing out the routes that they can take. So, regardless of what your perk loadout is or where your spawn points are when you start the match, that every team has an equal advantage in the game types.
Now, obviously when you launched back in November, you and I were together out there in New York, and we knew it was going to be big, but I mean, now that you look back, the launch was massive. Some are calling it the largest launch in entertainment history.
Yeah.
What do you think about what makes it successful? I mean, you talked about some of the care that the team down at Infinity Ward puts into creating the maps, but I mean, where is the success? I mean, what's the difference between a good game, and I don't want to name any names, and then your game, which many would consider a great game?
I think it comes down to the core quality of the game. I mean, the Infinity Ward team here are paid so much attention to detail, and they put so much work into just, making sure things are right. And then also, when the game comes out and everybody's hammering away at it, the team is really great here as listening to that feedback and addressing it as fast as possible. So if something comes up, we're immediately working on a fix for it and pushing out the door as fast as we can. And that, that word of mouth spreads. I mean, when people play a game that they love and they see the quality in it, and they're telling their friends about it, and their friends are jumping on. And then most importantly, when they come across issues, if they do, knowing that we're continuing to support our game. And I think that, especially in multiplayer, does a lot for building up that community and making them dedicated to the game, because they know you're listening to them and they know you're addressing them. And, it may take a little time, but we're definitely hitting them up. I mean, when we release it,